Okay, so if you've been reading in your text or following along on D2L, any of that, this will be familiar to you. If this is the first time that you're seeing this information in the semester, I would be slightly concerned, but this should be the second or third time that you're seeing this information. We're talking about the elements and principles of design, which are similar to the alphabet and grammatical rules of the alphabet in the English language. So, on the side of elements, the elements are the building blocks, the individual components or language of compositions, and they include things like point, line, shape, color, value, texture, mass, space, light, motion. And it's one of the very few things that I would ask that you intentionally try to memorize over the course of the semester. So, the next step on the road is the principles of art. And the principles of art are like the grammar or punctuation of art. They're not the building blocks, they're the kind of things that help us organize the conversation that we're creating with the language of art. So these include unity, variety, balance, emphasis, focal point, scale, proportion, rhythm, repetition, pattern, economy. Now, these are all things that have been kind of navigated a little bit in your reading of both the textbook and in the lectures. So, if you have any questions about the meaning of these particular terms, please feel free to email me and I will get you the best answer that we can coming backwards. So from there, we run into this other thing called the formal analysis. And the formal analysis is kind of a special and important concept. So I'm going to step off the camera here for a second and grab an object and try to hold it up to the camera. But I think this is a ceramic object that's a wood-fired ceramic object, and it's one that I hold on to or have been holding on to for about a year or so, just looking at it and thinking about it and spending time in my studio with it, and before I kind of try to ascribe some level of value to it and send it out the door to someone else's house and all of that. There's a number of things that I need to do. I have to be able to describe the object. I need to be able to analyze the object or analysis. I need to be able to interpret. And I need to be able to judge. So description, analysis, interpretation, and judgment are the four basic steps to the formal analysis. It's very important that you do come to your own conclusion in the formal analysis, which actually takes the form of making a judgment, but that you don't come to the step of making a judgment as the first step of the formal analysis. It's actually the last thing that you do. The formal analysis is to an artist what the scientific method is to a scientist. that you create a hypothesis and you test the hypothesis. You publish or reevaluate the hypothesis again and again through experimentation. Then you share that with your peers and mentors, and others get feedback and come back and retest your hypothesis in science. In our field, it comes down to these four components right here. And I'll go into them and describe them a little bit more here in just a minute. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about formal analysis and the four components thereof. So description as the first piece of the formal analysis. This happens to be a ceramic object in the round. It's a pot, in fact, and it's designed maybe for eating out of, maybe from drinking out of. And in that regard, it's kind of ambiguous. It's not very clear whether this is an eating or a drinking vessel, but what is clear is that this piece was fired in a kiln called a wood kiln, creating a surface that one side is quite active and colorful and the other side is quite charred and brown, creating this gradient of color from one side of the object to the other side of the object. So description is a pure and utter attempt to use language to paint a visual picture of the object in front of you that you are considering for analysis and interpretation. You're not doing the analysis or the interpretation quite yet. You're just trying to use your words to describe elements of the piece in front of you or the image that are characteristic to that image. Analysis is kind of the investigation of the visual thesis of the work. Meaning, can another person get to what the artist intended by the presentation of the work as it is? So in this case, this is an attempt to create a Korean rice bowl. And this is a very successful attempt at making something like a Korean rice bowl. Historically accurate to objects made in the 1500s, with pieces historically relevant being executed for use by all kinds of royalty throughout Japan. Then that brings us to interpretation. Interpretation has to do with what does this mean to the greater society. So if you think of a piece like the Mona Lisa with the smiling face, what does it mean that this is an individual portrait? 1503 says Google. So forget 1503 though, because I'm not super picky about dates and times and other things. What I am interested in is that you know about your upcoming paper. And the due dates for your paper happen to be Sunday, March 21st for the rough draft / first attempt or essay that you're going to be organizing for class. You'll be able to find a lot more information about this on D2L and Brightspace. As well as if you have any questions about it, you can always email me and I'll get back to you with as much information as I can regarding your request. But we're going to have a rough draft of the paper due of a formal analysis, which is going to be these four components: description, analysis, interpretation, and judgment, spelled out on a piece of art in your community somewhere, most likely. and we'll talk about where you're going to be finding these pieces of art and all of that. But yeah, we're going to look around hard and fast at the places that we live as a starting place. So maybe I'll do a little hunting around here and show you some things that I can find here as an example of art other than things that I make myself. I know it's the middle of winter and very, very cold at the moment, but we'll be able to work around that and figure something out. So, thank you much.